city of Detroit. If there could be a place that represents the death and life, yeah, it was one thing to save the village. That was important, and Robert Moses was going to impose a highway. But if you think of a place that was close to death and is now entering into a new life, it's Detroit. Why does that happen? Well, there's great space available. There's affordability, but cities attract different people. Sometimes people say, you know, Jonah Lehrer in his new book, Imagine, in his chapter on urban friction, talks about how cities attract the strange. Long ago, what made the village work was attracting all of these very different kind of people who didn't fit in, who were experimenting across the board with art and all sorts of things. Well, one of the things Detroit, in contrast to some of the outlying communities, which are a little bit more staid, Detroit is a place where anything goes, where anyone can come and be a part of it. You know, black, white, Asian, young, old, whatever. It's a place that's open to people. And I think when you get that intermixing of people who are a little bit different, a little bit strange, and that's the word Jane Jacobs used for it, strange, that's what creates, so when, in my own work, I've always said the key to understanding economic growth and development, well, yes, you need technology and great universities and great companies. Yes, you need talent, human capital, people with skill, and not just college education. That's why I created this idea of a creative class. It's not a college grad, it's someone who wants to engage their own creative abilities. But I think the key is the third T, technology, talent, and tolerance. And I could have come up with a better word, but words like inclusion or openness don't have a T. So it's this tolerant, open-minded, inclusive community which lets anyone make a difference. And when we know that when you get demographic diversity, when you get different kinds of people in a community, and they start to combine and recombine and heterogeneously, that's where real innovation comes from. You talked about all these great examples in Detroit and how it inspires. You live in a pretty, and you mentioned Ames and well, the great heritage of Cranbrook and the architectural and design heritage for furniture that comes out of Detroit and in greater Michigan. But you live in a pretty inspired place. You live in Lafayette Park, you know, designed, I guess, in the great urban renewal. You can explain it better than me. Mies van der Rohe, why don't you tell us a little bit about, not just the physical design, but how Lafayette Park, too, has created this collection of interesting city builders and urbanites.
Well, Lafayette Park is the world's largest collection of buildings designed by the architect Mies van der Rohe. It's sort of seen as a kind of modernist icon, but in fact it actually subscribes to many of the new urbanist desires. It's compact, it's walkable, there's community. It's a pretty inspiring place. It was built in the late 50s. I think the groundbreaking was the same year that the city's population began to decline.
We're in Lafayette Park, in the center of Detroit's urban core, in this, it's probably one of the single most spectacular urban developments, certainly in US history, if not world history. I mean, you know, many people would argue Mies van der Rohe is the most important modernist architect of the 20th, or one of the most important modernist architects of the 20th century. And you know, you think of his kind of chrome and glass and steel, austere towers, you know, surrounded by concrete and glass. And here are his townhouses and 1- and 2-story units, you know, embedded in I guess in urban forest. It's not even an urban park, you know. And you can see over there, so you can see his towers looming above that way. Embedded in this, and it's quite remarkable. I mean, we're less than a mile, maybe a half mile from the downtown core. Every single person is creative, and what's key to rebuilding Detroit is harnessing that creative energy of everyone, from innovators and entrepreneurs, to architects and designers, to musical innovators, to people who want to develop new ways of feeding the city and developing restaurants. So it's really about tapping that creativity of every single person.